Today's scene is a little bit different. We're not out in the harsh environment, out on the land, busy doing stuff. Today, we are planning and I am sharing this plan with you. In essence, what I want to share with you is our full homestead plan. It's a big plan. It's a plan that's going to take a good few years to unfold. But I wanted to share this with you so that you can see the vision that we have. And ultimately, in a couple of years' time, when we move onto the land permanently, how we're going to be able to sustain ourselves and how we can create a fully self-sufficient homestead from the land that we have. For me, I think this is very, very exciting. One of my favorite things about projects is taking visions and things that are in your head and putting it into some kind of tool or platform, onto paper or into an actual digital tool, to then bring across your thoughts, and you can somehow visually represent what is inside your head. Now, one of the really, really important things to remember about anything like this when it comes to planning is you have to sit tight. I know, it is super hard. We've had this land for more than a year, and we've done some big things, but we haven't done anything major or anything structural. And I am personally incredibly happy we haven't done that, because the plan has evolved. The plans have changed. Orientations, layouts, things like that have all changed the more I've spent time on the land, looking at water flowing, looking at roads, looking at the sun, the wind, the rain movements. All of that have resulted in things changing. Also, one of the major changes is we have a huge troop of baboons that live in the mountains right above us. The baboons sit on the fence posts and watch us. So that's a huge problem, which if you've ever experienced monkeys, baboons, and there is any form of food you're growing, you have to cage everything in. So big change there. The other thing is we are in a protected leopard environment. The Swartberg Mountains are protected leopard territory. So we don't have a smaller leopard, we have an actual leopard. So there have been many sightings of them in the mountains. So we're looking at things like sheep, goats, chickens, things like that. We have caracals, we have, I think they're called gennets. They're all wild cats that all take small animals and poultry. So we've had to make plans with that too. Also, big change was the orientation of the house. We were originally going to have it top center down. Now, rather than going full bang with the house, we decided to go with a tiny A-frame cabin at the bottom, more towards the left, with our main house on the top right. Being that the top right is obviously at the top, it's slightly flatter and then it dips down. The tiny A-frame will be out of sight of the main house, so that we can get two properties on the same land, so we can share it with you and friends, family, everybody else that would like to come and experience Tamakura Homestead. So this is our homestead plan. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learned something, and I would be super keen to hear your thoughts and any suggestions or recommendations you might have. So let's hop into the screen recording. So what we're going to do here is I have a screen in front of me and I can see you over there. So we might be hopping between the two, but ultimately all the work is going to happen here. And if we take a zoomed out look at the screen in front of me, what we have is the actual plot in terms of the satellite view. There's the existing road and runs through there. This is a satellite view prior to all the actual work that's been done. So down here, all the fire breaking, we've done the clearing of the roads, the clearing of the fruit orchard. All of that has been done, but it's not represented on here, but it's represented in other ways. So this is a high-level view of the property. If you've seen any of our videos before, you would know that we have these beautiful, majestic, powerful, big mountains right behind us. And the mountains are up here. So if we have a look, right above us is pretty much northeast, and that's where the main mountains come from. Now, just to give you an idea of the storms and the weather, which might help with orientation, the main winds in the winter and the main storms come straight down the mountains. So it's coming down northeast, and it's gale force winds, the storms, everything. And then in the summer, we tend to get quite a lot of southeasterly winds coming through from this side of the screen across over here. We tend to never get anything from the northwest or southwest. It's pretty much all top to southeast, which now helps you in terms of the orientation of the land. From a very, very high level, what we have here is a house. The main house is, like I mentioned, which is in the top right corner. And I'm saying top right if I'm standing here looking down. The property is sloped towards this corner. So from the top right to the bottom left, that's the slope of the land. So main house with time will be at the top here, and the tiny A-frame is down at the bottom. Now, something you might have already seen as well is the Waterbury fire and windbreak that we have already put up at the top. It's inside the main fire break, so that's already in place. We already have our first 5 trees which represented the violas in Tamacona Homestead, which is a London plane, 2 of those, water oak, liquid amber, pin oak. And then what's happening is the entire way down, you can see these are all trees all the way down the driveway to the bottom A-frame house. And these are all indigenous. So we have water pears, wild pears, sweet thorn, coastal silver oak, and weeping boobeen. Johannesburg gold is not an indigenous, but it's a really beautiful, probably South African tree. It's really beautiful. Sand olive. And what else do we have here? African holly. And wild pear, water pear, sweet thorn. Yeah, so we have a few of those in repeats. And that's going to create like an indigenous, shaded, cooled area that we can walk top to bottom. It'll be a nice area for bird life and other creatures. And that's something we're going to be doing now in autumn. So I have all the trees. I've been collecting these trees over the last year. So I think I have 42 trees stored in the front of the house. And they are going to go in autumn, which is going to create this beautiful split center line straight down the middle of the property with beautiful indigenous trees. Then we move down into the next big thing we have already started with, but that I'm super excited to be starting, is the fruit orchard. This is not an accurate representation of the fruit orchard. It's just a layout with some thoughts. I have a different tab which has the 39 fruit trees we're going to be planting. And the idea is that we will have at least 1 fruit tree in fruit every single month of the year. With idea being that we have 2 or more in fruits, because we all know as seasons change, as weather patterns change, something that is usually fruiting in December might fruit earlier or later. So we want cutter. So we have 39 fruit trees. And if you remember, you'll be getting that detailed membership and fruit tree breakdown later on in this week when I publish the fruit tree breakdown. What trees are going to be in there, the way I'm going to plant it. There's a very, very specific way I'm going to be planting them. And the way that I'm going to be planting them is going to set them up to the best success moving forward. That video is coming out to members earlier on, or a little bit later on in this week. So we're going to have a big, I think a 32 meters long by 30 meters wide section. It's already been cleared. That was a super cool video, and which I'll put in the description for you. Then this whole fruit orchard is going to be caged in. I'm going to be using the concrete flooring mesh. They are It's 6 meters long, 2.4 meters high. It's welded, reinforced mesh, quite thick. I'll be able to climb up it. Baboons can climb up it. They can't get in. All the insects can actually get in. And then we just have to see what the bird pressure is like. If there's big bird pressure, and I have not seen anything like mouse birds or big fruit pests in the area, then we could always just put bird netting on the inside and attach it to the mesh. But the idea is this would be a square structure which would then have the mesh inside and outside to keep the baboons out, and ultimately a beautiful, thriving fruit orchard. Then right above the fruit orchard on the outside, so we're not going to worry about olives and the baboons because baboons don't eat olives. Nothing eats raw olives. They're just way too bitter. And if you'd ever try to eat an olive raw, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you thought. I've tried to eat a few olives raw. It was absolutely horrendous. But if you have, drop me a comment. I'll be keen to hear what your raw olive tasting experience was like. And the idea with olives being they are incredibly hardy. They are really good with wind and anything like that. So as we zoom out, as the winds come straight down, the olives, which will get up to 6 meters tall, will double out as a really good wind buffer for the fruit orchard. So you can see we were going to have stone fruit, apples, pears, citrus, all of that. So they all can handle an element of wind, but not necessarily like incredibly strong gale force winds. So the olives up here would be to solve a lot of the wind issues. They don't need a lot of irrigation and watering, and they would mainly be used for preserving. So storing olives in jars, and spoiler alert, we're going to be having Kalamata olives. There is the mission olive as well, which is a dual purpose, but we don't want dual purpose because we're never going to be squeezing oil. It's just not worth it. So these are just purely eating olives, which we can then put in brine, store, and who knows, maybe we'll be able to give away a few, sell a few, let's see. Then if we go a little bit further down, and we have the grain field. And the grain field, if you've been here around, it's actually what put me into hospital. So I had 2 spine surgeries because I ruptured a disc, L4 and L5, right down. Yeah, you can watch that video if you want to find out more. But yeah, that was busy creating the grain field. Now, something I've learned is I planted a few grains just to see what was going to happen. And I was a bit worried about the baboons. And unfortunately, every single head of the grain that I planted, which was wheat, has broken off. So you can see there's a long stalk and literally the top has been broken off. So the baboons have without a doubt been there. Those are not birds, but birds would still have the ear of the wheat there. There would just be no seeds in it. They do broken off. Some of them have been pulled out the grass. So that's baboons. So I'm more than likely going to need to put in a smaller enclosure for the grains. And I'm actually thinking of doing a decent sized hoop house with shade cloth, 20%. And then I'll just see how that works with the baboons. If they end up getting through that, we might need to put chicken wire on the outside of the mesh. I don't know. We're going to have to play this one by ear to see how it goes. Or we might be bolting it into the fruit orchard, which I'll share in that midweek video that I mentioned earlier. Then we're going to have a vegetable garden. Straight up, normal raised bed, half raised bed veggie garden. And you'll see proportionately the veggie garden is really small. And that's because proportionately your amount of fresh veg compared to legumes and root crops is significantly less. So we're going to rely less on huge vegetable gardens, which are incredibly time consuming to manage. We're going to have a really good amount of fresh veg, but then we're going to be relying on sorghum, amaranth, buckwheat, all these really, really ancient grains to bring into meals, and lots of fruit, lots of root crops, pumpkin, squash, things like that. And then, very importantly, is animals. We will be raising animals for meat, milk, things like that as well. So we've got our grain field, our veggie garden, our fruit orchard, and then if we carry on further down, we're going to have our composting section down here, which will have a feed storage. Idea is not to feed too much, and human manure and compost. And yes, you heard right, human manure. We are doing composting toilets. It's just, we're so remote. The idea of having to put in incredibly big, complex septic systems where you need council approval and to dig into, you see how hard this Karoo soil is, and to dig deep enough to put a septic tank underground. I don't even want to try and attempt that. So we're going above ground, human manure, and the human manure, as it breaks down 1 to 2 years' time, will all go back into the fruit orchard and potentially into olives or just the trees. Even if they just go into the trees, that would be great. So then we've got our composting section. There we have a whole bunch of sweet thorns. They're very, very popular in the area. Smell beautiful, beautiful for wildlife, bees, all of that. And then right at the very bottom, we have pasture. And the pasture is going to be mainly to keep the goats in. I'm looking at a few varieties of goats, but the goats are going to be mainly for milk. So I'm looking at Nubians or a Nubian cross somewhere that can handle the heat and the cold really well, because we do have the extremes. The other option is the Kalahari Red, which is also a really, really good Karoo acclimatized goat that is a dual purpose meat and goat, meat and milk goat. But we'll see. We've still got lots of time until we actually get animals on. Then we will have lots of chickens, egg chickens and meat chickens. The meat chickens will go like tractor and they will follow the animals, and we'll look at doing an rotation. Not huge sections, so we've got 20 by 20 meters. That would be a block, 20 by 20, and then there would be 4 of those blocks. And we'll literally only have 2, maybe 3 goats and some chickens and a couple of sheep. But the sheep are not going to always be in pasture. So it'll be rotating, but not extreme rotation. And then the chickens in the tractors for the meat chickens, which they just follow. They would have heard me mention sheep. And yes, we do want to get some sheep. Remembering that this is just under 1.8 hectares. Most of the land here is going to be open and available. So the decision is to get dorper sheep. If you don't know what a dorper is, or you're not in South Africa, that's the white sheep with the black head. You do also get black dorpers, which the whole coat is black. And they actually thrive on low nutrient food. So they can eat bamels. And this is all bamels. So the idea is to get 4, 5, maybe 3 or 4. We'll see how much it goes. Sheep. And we love mutton. Absolutely love it. We actually don't like lamb. We find it's too rich. So the idea would be seeing how far a sheep can go, and then seeing how far potentially 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 sheep can go a year for our family, if we take into account the meat chickens as well. And then we'll obviously have our eggs on top of that. So the idea would be free roaming sheep, but then in the evenings we would try and get them into a routine to come into the pasture. They would have houses in the pasture then, but then they would have access to this as well. So we might end up creating some kind of system where the goats are on these 3 of rotation, but the sheep have this one open all the time. They can eat here, they can go out, they can come in. There's still a lot to figure out, but the idea is that the sheep wouldn't be confined to the pasture because it'd be too small, so they would be free roaming throughout. But obviously need to look at getting our dogs used to sheep as well. And then the A-frame, the tiny A-frame house is going to be completely surrounded by trees, which is going to be epic. It's going to be such an experience. And that's going to overlook some fynbos over here, but then ultimately overlook the pasture, which I think could be really, really cool. You can see over here we've got sweet thorn, wild pear, water pear, water pear. And yes, these are water things, but if you know the water pear, it is actually incredibly hardy. But the idea is all the household water is going to be distributed to these plants. So they're going to get more than enough water. There are a few like in here, like a liquid amber, things like that aren't indigenous, but that's beautiful. We just want some beautiful trees as well. So if we carry on all the way up, we'll then have a look at creating indigenous evergreen tree forest, because we need shade. We need lots of shade. A lot of things need shade, with the idea that obviously the sheep won't be able to get in here, won't be able to get in here anywhere else. The sheep will then have access to this shade, but also they can just walk around inside the tree forest and access shade, and you'll have water in here as well. We're then going to put in a nice big 100,000 liter reservoir. That's all going to be water captured from rain, things like that, which will be the primary watering source for the whole farm, in addition to honestly what we get with our title deed rights to the waterfall water. And then moving up to the main house, it'll be a 3-bedroom house. This is not the representation of the house. It'll be in a U shape, not in a box shape like this. Also completely surrounded. And it's not going to be liquid apples surrounding this house. This is just me playing around with ideas. And the big thing here is to restore the fynbos, at least out of this section. You can actually see, if you compare these two sections, how dense this renosterbos is in comparison to this side. And why I want to restore it is literally 500 meters up here, there's no renosterbos. If I walk up to the waterfall, it's wild fynbos, proteas, ericas, pincushions. There are silver fern trees. It's absolutely beautiful. But this was previously agricultural land many years ago, and renosterbos is famous for invading neglected agricultural land. And it grows so densely, so quickly, that nothing else from the fynbos biome can actually grow. So I'm going to be restoring a lot of this. I'm going to bring in a huge variety of fynbos, obviously native to our local environments, but proteas, pincushions, ericas, you name it, we bring it all in. So the idea is the main house, we can sit here and just, experience this beautiful restored fynbos looking into a forest, and then looking over this indigenous walkway as well. So this would be like a really nestled up, closed off section from the main house. It'll feel really secluded. And then as soon as you cross, it's going to all open up into this open section with fruit orchard and everything else. So the tiny house and the main house would never even be able to see one another, which is really cool. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're looking at doing. Windbreaks, waterberries. You can eat waterberries. The baboons can eat waterberries. So if they're in the area, the idea is go. Eat what you want to. Take all the waterberries. And they grow very quickly. Their branches brave. It's not a big issue. And that's it. So yeah, this is quite a big plan. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a huge amount that I'm obviously very, very excited for. So this is a master plan. And there you go. That is our full plan. I am super excited. I hope you are. I would love to hear from you. Please drop me a comment below about your thoughts. If you think this is going to work, what it is you potentially would change. And yes, please do subscribe so that you can see how this plan unfolds into reality, what changes, what stays, what works, what doesn't. You might have also heard me mention memberships. Yes, I do have a membership section here on YouTube where I post weekly, midweek content in addition to what I post here on, I try and do every weekend. And the idea of deeper insights into some of my decisions, some behind the scenes content, things like that. Just last week, I did a detailed walkthrough of our A-frame. What is it going to look like? What is the inside? Give you some examples. So Squad members already know exactly what I'm doing when it comes to the A-frame. And then you can also head over to Patreon. I share the information there. You can support us by buying us coffees. But yes, I am really happy to be sharing this with you. I hope you're as excited as I am about what this journey holds. And until next time, thanks for all your support. Happy homesteading and stay safe.